So welcome back, everybody. J.R. Flatter, and this is The Secrets of Government Contracting. Our distinguished guest this week is Linda Stafford with RMGS. And Linda, I'll pass it over to you to tell our listeners, our peers, who you are and what your team does, and
Okay.
whatever else might come to mind. Thank you
Okay.
for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm Linda Stafford. As you said, I'm the president of RMGS. I'm also one of the founders. We've been in business since 2008 was when we first established the company. We have about 125 employees all around the world, from Mississippi to Africa and every place in between. Revenue probably around 21 million this year. We've been growing 20% a year every year for the last several years. So we've been really on an upward growth path. In my role as president, I manage the entire administrative side of the company, from HR to contracts to finance, proposals, all of that side of the house. And of course, I work very closely with my partners and CEO who manage the operation side, as well as our program managers. We have about, I would say, 12 to 15 people who work in our headquarters office who run the company. And then all of our employees outside of that work at government locations or from their homes, but mostly working full-time for the government at government sites. And as I mentioned, everywhere from advisors on a Department of State contract in Africa to folks training on leadership in Mississippi,
Okay.
and all in between. So what else? So we are pretty diverse for a fairly small business. We have contracts with Department of Defense, Department of State, Homeland Security, and directly with allied nations. So we're pretty diverse in our clientele as far as our location and types of contracts. They're mostly firm fixed price, but we did recently get a cost plus this year. So we're starting to grow up and be a big boy in the DCA's eyes.
Yeah, you're going to have to tell us the secret of how you got audited, because that's not easy to do.
Yeah, well, we just started so we passed and that I'll have to get my finance person Lynn on with that, because she's amazing. She has a lot of experience in government contract. And one of the secrets, I guess you could say, and this is a tough one for a lot of people, but we got Deltek early, and it's painful. It's very expensive and it's not user friendly. And finding employees who know how to use it makes your search even more difficult. But it works, and the government is familiar with how Deltek works. They're comfortable with it. So I'm always looking for another option, because it is frustrating sometimes, but it does help that the government understands it, and we have somebody who knows how to use it, who has used it for years. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So we are talking to our peers, our listeners, and our readers. What advice or information might you offer to your peers or anyone else that's thinking about getting into this business?
Well, for folks who are thinking about getting into it, I would say it's a lot harder than most people realize. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to make, somebody actually recently said 20% profit in government contracting. And I kind of had to not laugh, because, we would love to make 20% profit, but that's not really possible in this business. Getting started is very difficult, because you have to have the past. Everything is circular. You have to have the past performance to get a new contract. You have to have work in, classified work in order to get the facility security clearance. So everything is very challenging. But if I was starting, I would say the one thing to focus on is cash flow. You have to have the cash. The government takes 60 to 90 days to pay. And that's if you got your accounting folks who know how to get an invoice in. And you have to pay your employees legally, at least every month, but most people do twice a month or every other Friday or what have you. So you have to have a way to manage cash flow. So whether that is a line of credit, which again, that's, a lot of people again think this is an easy business, but you're putting your house, the owners are putting their house on the line with that line of credit. Usually the government or the banks don't just give money because they think you're a great business person. So having that line of credit, having a great relationship with your banker who will help you out, if you get in a jam, and then just making sure you're on top of it. One of the things that we started several years ago is a weekly cash flow meeting where our accounts payable, accounts receivable, travel, claim folks all get together. We have a standard format once a week with the executives and go over where are we, what's coming in, what's going out, and projecting for the next few weeks, just to make sure you're staying on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So cash flow, really important when you're getting started. And then as you start to grow, I think one of the things that is really important is compliance. There's so many landmines with government contracting and just small employers that a lot of employers don't realize, I think. And I say that some of that is my background. When I first started working was in HR, human resources, and training. So I know a lot of those rules, and there's times where I've talked to a business owner and they tell me, oh, I just passed 50 employees. And I say, oh, wow, how's your affirmative action plan going? And they say, my what now? And, there's things like that you might get away with it for a while. But if you get caught, it's not something you can throw together in an afternoon. It's lots and lots of data. So just making sure that what find out what those landmines are, talk to experts in the field, whether it's human resources or security. Now we have all these new security requirements that we have to follow. Getting all those people in place, whether it's outsourced or an expert, or if you can afford to hire them, get those people in place and make sure that they're tracking and keeping you from stepping on one of those landmines. I think that's so important.
Yeah, you're describing the classic chicken and egg that I just wrote a blog last week about this very thing. You need past performance, but how do you get it? You need a line of credit, but the bank won't give you a line of credit till you have at least 2 years in business. You can't get your 8A if you want to go that route until you've been in business 2 years. So how do you stay in business 2 years? There's just so many of these, like how you described, landmines that are just waiting for you. And I use the analogy of starting in business is like learning how to drive. There's only one way to do it, and that's do it. But you just hope you don't kill yourself or anyone else while you're trying to figure it out.
That's true. That's true.
So here you are, you've been in business 20 years or 15 years, and you're still discovering. And they're still putting what I would call unfunded requirements on us, like the insider threat. That's one of the newest ones. Mm-hmm. Or the CMMC. Remains to be seen what happens, but that could be another unfunded requirement, and continuing to thin our margins.
Yeah.
Talk about, if you don't mind, sorry, talk about how you compete in this industry. You're obviously very successful. You're growing 20% a year after year. So talk to us a little bit about how you do that.
So one of the things that you can do is throw out a wide net, right? You're only going to win a certain percentage of what you bid on. So we do bid on a lot. Keeping your indirect rates low, that's always a battle, because those people who write the proposals are also the people that work on indirect. So it's always a battle, but it's slowly, building on. One of the things we did at the beginning, and we still do sometimes, is we will outsource things. So, we didn't have an amazing pricer on staff. So, but we know a guy who does do pricing. So, we can't afford to have him on staff full time, but we don't need somebody full time doing that. But if we get in a jam or we get to a proposal that's really big and really complex, then that's when we reach out. And we've done that a lot across the board, just to keep our costs down, indirect rate rise, but also keep us moving forward. You have to keep bidding, keep trying. Sometimes we have people who, especially newer folks who we bid something and they, we're going to win this one. It's meant for us. The client wants us. And then we lose and they get so disappointed. And it is disappointing, but I don't let those things bother me anymore, because it's almost 50-50. It's almost rolling the dice. There's things like that. We know that the client wants us. They love us. They hate everybody else. But for some reason, we don't, we didn't win, or there's things that we just know we're not going to win. We have no business bidding on this, but maybe somebody wanted to partner with us and we said, sure, we'll give it a try. We'll throw something over the fence, and lo and behold, you get an award notice. Sometimes it feels random, and you do the best you can. And I always tell my proposal people, just do the best you can. We're not going to blame you if we don't win. We'll give you credit if we do, but that's just the way it is. It's there's human beings on the other side who are reviewing those. Sometimes they don't even involve the technical people, which is shocking to me sometimes. The folks that are actually going to be using your services sometimes have no involvement in the process. So it's just a gamble. So we just keep on trying.
Yeah, I've actually struck the word unbelievable from my vocabulary, because so often that happens in both directions, right? You're absolutely going to win this one, you don't, and you have no chance of winning this one, and you do. It can be maddening.
It is, yeah. And getting back to what you were saying earlier about the circular thing, I mean, one of the things we have found with that is if there's some place new we want to get into, you start off as a sub, and that's all you can do. And we've done that. That's how we ended up in Africa, as we started out as a sub on a big Department of State contract, and we did some exercise type work, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there for several years. And then lo and behold, we went to prime on a Bureau of African Affairs contract. And we're sending people full time to live year round, advising, African nations. So it's just that's a way to do it. And of course, when you sub, you're possibly creating a competitor, but we have a lot of, friends, a lot of companies that we add them to our team, they add us to their team, and we share the work the best we can. And it all works out for everybody in the end.
Yeah, you almost have to team in this business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just for so many different reasons. I'm sure we have similar pipelines and similar processes. We look at our business in 5 phases: identifying opportunities, qualifying those opportunities, capturing them, proposing on them, and then finally executing if you win, which is 2 to 3 years. And for every one of those, you have those 5 constituents across the 5 phases, and it gets pretty complex pretty fast. And how do you decide what to go after?
We actually just put together, so we're ISO certified, so we have a lot of sort of formal processes and forms that we follow. So one of the things we did, we've had a form or a document that we use when we break down an RFP. So, but we've recently revised it to reflect not only PWin, but the strategy that the company wants to take. Because as we've grown, we have more PMs, we have more people looking at opportunities. So we wanted a simple way to convey where the company wants to go strategically. So as the executives, we make these decisions about where we want to go, and then we incorporate that into our RFP. We call it our RFP analysis form. There's, I think, 3 sections. So the first section is a very simple breakdown of what is this opportunity? Is it, who's the customer? How is it full-time employees, or is it cyclical work? How many people? What's the POP? Who's the client? Who's, what's the expected value? All of those things. Is it LPTA, FFP, all of that. So kind of just an overview. And we did that in the section 1 because we find that somebody finds an opportunity and then they shoot it out to 6 people in the company. Hey, what do you think about this? So now 6 people have to stop what they're doing and read a 30-page RFP. It's a lot of time. So if somebody first takes the time to just break it down on the section 1 and send that out, then people can quickly, go through and find the fine points. And then the second part is the strategic part. So we have a ranking system where, if it's these particular clients, it gets a higher score. If it's in these particular areas, it gets a higher score. If it's this type of contract, higher score, that kind of a thing. So that helps us kind of like add a score for the strategy component. And we did things that aren't necessarily in our, the only directed towards our strategy, but it helps us kind of go, why are we doing this? It's not even in our, where we want to be. And then the third part is more P-win things. Do we know the incumbent? Do we have a relationship with the client? Have we been working on this and have we been talking to the client? Do we know, do we have the personnel? Do we know how to find them? Those kind of things. So it helps us come up with multiple scores that'll then help us kind of go, okay, this thing has a score of 5. Why are we even talking about it?
Yeah.
Just simplify if you can. People are busy, and I'm always looking for ways to make life easier and still have, to get things done in a more efficient way, I guess.
Yeah. So the podcast is called The Secrets of Government Contracting. So one of the requirements of being one of our distinguished guests, you have to share one of your secrets with us. So what would be a secret you could share with us?
Let's see. I think I already told you about cash flow. Maybe that's not a secret. Compliance, mentioned that. Take good care of your employees and treat them like people, especially in cases where, if you're like RMGS, we have a lot of our employees, don't work here. Most of 90% of our employees work at a government site. They're issued a government computer. They deal with the government clients all day, and some of them never meet us. So one of the things we try to do is, first of all, if we win a contract, especially if it has multiple employees, we send the PM and usually an executive to go meet them. And a lot of times that alone will be a shock to the employees because they've worked for 3 or 4 different companies and they've never met anybody that they work for. Or they say, oh, they only come visit us when it's time for the recompete. They never even bother to come visit us. So we make a point to visit them, to meet them face to face. And we treat them like people, not a number. So they're not just, we're not just a paycheck issuer. We send them newsletters, let them know what we're doing and thinking here, even though it's not necessarily tied to their day-to-day job, but it is, hey, here's what RMGS is doing. Here's our successes. Here's some awards we've received. Here's all the new employees that have been hired in the past, since the last newsletter. Here's all the employees who've been recognized. We might spotlight somebody. One of the things that our employees tend to like is at Thanksgiving time, we send them a coupon to buy a turkey. And it's the littlest thing, and they can buy any groceries with it, but it's from Butterball. So it's like, here's your Thanksgiving turkey. And we send them out to everybody. And it's just a little thing, but it just shows that we don't just think of them as, somebody we issue a paycheck to. We really think of them as people, and, they are the reason we're here. So we try to.
What a great idea. Yeah, well, thanks for that. Everybody, people pay a lot of lip service to putting employees first, but it sounds like you're actually doing it. So last thing before I let you go, keep my eye on the clock here and respecting your time. If you would, please give us 2 or 3 names of who we might invite in the future as a distinguished guest that you think their voice would be valuable to our peers.
I would say either Bob and Tracy Gregorio from G2 Ops. They are impressive in what they've done with their company and have really nailed it down some really interesting contract vehicles, which I'm still trying to understand, and I think might be a great, they sound fabulous. So I think they've done a great job at figuring that out. And then another contractor that really impresses me is Chris Hagerman with Hager Development Group. He's fairly small, fairly new business, but he has managed to do a lot. He's figured out a lot of everything as it comes to government contracting. He has performed all the roles in his company, and he's really won some great contracts, and we've been able to partner with him and benefit from that relationship with him. So he's another excellent source.
Well, great. We'll invite all 3 of them. So thank you for that.
Don't tell them I told you.
Oh, no, that's the way I get in the door. I have to tell them you told me, otherwise they won't know who I am. So thanks so much for being with us. Some invaluable insights, and it sounds like you guys are killing it, taking care of your team while you're doing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting us on.
And we'll talk to you soon, I hope.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.